Hey, it's Dan Moralez, and this is Homebuyer Radio. I was just telling my guest, I really don't know what episode this is, but it's episode 100 and something. So I don't think anybody really cares that much what episode it is. But this week, I was fortunate enough to bring in the guy that I consider to be the best real estate marketer in the greater Grand Rapids, Michigan market.
That's too much.
No, it's not. You are, man. You're a humble guy, but he is just a really, really good guy. Steve Volkers, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm just grateful I was able to rope you in and get you in. I know you're a busy guy.
No, this works.
But Steve is one of these guys who I look up to as a marketer and somebody who is just a really creative person and really what I would call a real estate innovator. Somebody who is always on the cutting edge of what's happening. And as we head into the housing market of 2019.
Yeah, it's getting crazy already.
Yeah, it's funny, right? I feel like, once January 1 hit, all of a sudden things got crazy again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, well, for our market, right, I know your audience is all over, but for West Michigan, where we sit right now, we generally are weather related, right?
Yeah.
And so, you can believe in global warming or not. That's up to you. That's your political opinions. But there is no snow. And when there's no snow, that's weird for us.
Yeah.
And so my sense of it is that we are early on in what we typically would call a spring market, but we're people are out. Where typically in January they're calling us or emailing us and saying, I added it to my list of to-dos in 19, right? Like I think 19 is the year, or 18. It's part of my goals for the year is to buy or to sell, and so we start the coffee meetings because it's too freaking cold or it's too snowy, and so, but now it's not. I mean, it's cold, but you're not trumping through a couple feet of snow. So we're seeing it where there's houses that have been on the market for 50 days and my clients are saying, hey, let's go look at that house. And then it goes pending within the hour that we're saying, oh, well, let's set up a showing. And so it's like, wait a minute, that thing's been out there for a long time. Why is it all of a sudden these things starting to turn over? And we're starting to see that right away this week. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
What do you, when you look at it, and I know Grand Rapids is one of those markets, one of the top markets in the country.
Absolutely.
When you look at 2019 compared to 2018, do you think we're going to see a market that is as competitive as what it was in 2018 this year, or do you think it might get a little closer to, dare I say, normal?
Well, I guess it depends on what you determine normal to be, right? So it's interesting. We've had these conversations around the Grand Rapids Association of Realtors board, right, table. And normal, you would say, is a 5 to 6 month of inventory. We're trying to act like normal might be 2 months of inventory, right? So it is not normal, even if we have additional units on the market. I think just like we've seen stuff that is on the upper end of the price scale is definitely sitting longer than it was before. There is some markets where we're starting to see some oversaturation of inventory where they might be at that 7-8 month periods. But that's, I know you said your audience was quite a few first-time homebuyers. That is not the case in that first-time homebuyer issue, right? So the first-time homebuyer or anyone, under the 250 mark or less, unless you're in some of the different school districts that are more attractive to some people, then you can go up in price range and they're still really desirable. So I think those starter markets or anything under 250, we're still going to be very low and not enough. Not enough product.
Short inventory.
So I mean, I think some of the pressure right now in the last week or two, and when we're talking to our clients, comes down to they know that the appreciation is going to be there again this year, right?
Yeah.
So if they buy in the next 30 days, if they can find something that they like in the next 30 days, they're going to be buying in before the 8% appreciation that's going to happen this year, right? Yeah. So we had 9% appreciation last year in 18. Everyone's saying that we're probably going to have that 7 to 8% appreciation again. If they buy, in January or February, then they get ahead of that. We'll see. It's really interesting when you watch it. Because of spring market situation in West Michigan, you'll see from that end of February, beginning of March through June, the appreciation those months is probably 15 to 18%.
Yeah,
and then for some reason at the end of the year we're at 9, right? Yeah. So we've pulled back the market over the last 3 months or so, right? And now now all of a sudden you've got a chance to be at a level where the house you buy today, expect it to be up at least 5% or 10% at the end of the year again if we have this conversation next year.
Yeah.
So
solid for
yeah.
this year.
So I mean, if you're buying $100,000 house, that means that next year at this time it's 110. If you're buying a 200, that means it's probably going to be worth 220.
Yeah. So solid appreciation.
Well,
again,
you're going to see it. I think you're going to see it.
Yep.
We just have really great attractors in West Michigan right now. And so with the amount of jobs that are out there, and still cost of living, and still, I mean, it's still affordable to live in West Michigan, right?
We kind of have like the best of all worlds, right? Like it's
Right.
just a beautiful place to live. It's a great place to raise a family.
Yep.
Economically, we continue to grow and be recognized by some of the number of different publications as as one of the best place for you name it.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to say best places for families, but I think that the young professionals are staying now, right? So before they would go off to Chicago or a big city and think that was cool, and now it's just not affordable for them to live there right now, right?
True.
And so I don't remember where I saw the article, but I saw an article in the last week talking about the flight of people from New York and Chicago and the big markets. That there's just a ton of people leaving those urban cores because it's just not affordable for them to even rent, let alone own there. And so there is a significant amount of the clients in our first-time homebuyers are young females and young males that are saying, like I couldn't, and young might be in their mid-30s, right?
Yep.
Saying I lived in Chicago, I could never afford to own something there, but I've found a really good job here in West Michigan, and I can afford to buy something, and I like that stability that West Michigan is going to bring me. So it's a different world, which is great.
Yeah, and like you said, it's very affordable compared to a lot of these other places.
Yeah. I randomly, when you see people on Facebook and they're talking about their communities that they live. Yesterday I just Googled one of those communities, and it was a small community just out of San Francisco, and the lady was a real estate agent. I just was like, well, what do those even run, right?
Yeah.
And a little 2-bedroom 1-bath was like $650, and I'm like, $650, I don't know. Anyways, it just blew my mind, right? So it blew my mind in two ways. One being a real estate agent thinking I'd only have to sell 3 of those instead of the 10 that we have to sell, right? But also in the it's
a very different
space.
It's a very different market there, right?
Absolutely.
But I think affordability is huge, right? And I think that's one of the challenges that different markets are having, right? When you start looking at San Francisco, that's one of those markets where the affordability is a huge issue. Where here it's very reasonable, but that lends itself to a very competitive market going into 2019. And I think I would agree, that first-time homebuyer segment is where it's going to continue to be really, really competitive. I read an article recently, I think it was an economic post or something, where they were talking about they expect 50% of the buyers in 2019 to be first-time homebuyers. And so that kind of entry-level price point is going to continue to be super competitive. And I think that's probably true throughout the country too. Right. That will probably continue to be the most competitive price point that's out there. Thinking about buyers and those who are buying for the first time, one of the things prior to recording, one of the things I kind of hit you up about is what are some of the things that your areas where you see people kind of get tripped up, or they end up in a jam as a buyer for the first time. What kinds of pitfalls do you see as an experienced agent?
Yeah, I think to speak into the affordability thing a second, I think first-time homebuyers are starting to feel the pinch in West Michigan about affordability too, right? So there is a couple of different issues, right? Fair housing and how do we balance that world of making sure that people that work hard in the service industry and others that might not be making the same as another person can still own a home, right? And that's important to, I think, you guys and for us, is to make sure that we can make it affordable. So there's a balance in that affordability, and we have those conversations with our clients now, that we aren't the 2012 pricing, right? When they first come into the market, they still think West Michigan affordability, when you're talking a little house, in the city of Grand Rapids, people come thinking, oh, well, I can still get something for 120, and it's just not there, right?
Yeah.
So, average sale price, is, I think 226 or something like that, which, just 8 years ago, it was 106, right?
Yeah,
that was during the foreclosure crisis, but still, I mean, we've had just a huge appreciation. So, one of the things that I think trip up a new buyer in West Michigan, and I can think that in most of Michigan, is because money was so cheap, right? With interest rates, that the idea of your first home, of what you used to buy compared to what you have bought in the last 5 years, is different.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to, when you're talking affordability, buyers are going to have to adjust what they believe their first home should look like compared to what a first home used to look like, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's a good point.
it's okay to buy a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. That is a good starting point. You can build equity there. You can have a mortgage that you don't feel overly strapped, and you can enjoy life outside of the home. So this whole, like, I need a 3-bed, 2-bath house, that's where the affordability is going to shift for first-time home buyers. And we're having those conversations often now, is like, okay, with the competitive market situation that it's going to be again, let's make sure that our wants and needs aren't too narrow. You get them too narrow, and we're not going to find you something. Right. So your first house, you might need to be a little bit more broad, a little bit more open, to find the right thing, so that you can take advantage of the market situation and the appreciation.
So maybe being a little more realistic on what they're looking at.
Because
I run into that. When I have conversations with clients where it's like what they want for a monthly payment and what a property costs and what they have to put down. I'm like, okay, something's got to give in the equation.
Right.
It's almost like a reset of what your expectations are.
Right.
And it's really kind of, I think, what you're speaking to is like, okay, you may want all these things. And I think, a lot of times for first-time buyers too, you're not going to get your forever house the first time, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think that if they have any friends that bought 3 years ago, they believe that that's the kind of house that they should be able to buy now, right?
Yeah.
But again, that house 3 years ago, it's gone up by 30%, right? I mean, we've had these 8 to 9, 10% appreciation for 3 years running, so it's up. So a $100,000 house is now at $130,000 to $150,000 house, right? In 3 years. So if their friends bought a really cute little $120,000 house in Alger Heights, that same little cute house is a $160,000 house now. Well, that might not be affordable if you just got out of school. You have school debt, which I know you deal with probably all the time, is dealing with their ratio side. The ratios might not equal that 160, 170. And so they, it's changing just the mindset to say, okay, wait a minute, your parents, if you went back to ask them, they probably started in the 2-bed, 1-bath, right? And then they paid down their debt and they made it work, and they were tight, but it worked. And so the American dream doesn't have to be the McMansion first, right? So, the whole idea is to build equity, to buy and to develop the house and fix it up a little bit and do a little sweat equity.
And you make a great point there. You said something I just picked up on, to buy right? And that's where a good agent, someone like yourself, is going to go through and try to really help somebody get to that right spot for them, right? And sometimes that's counseling. I feel like agents are counselors in addition to right? Like you deal with so many more things than what we do on the mortgage side. But I think that a lot of that is positioning yourself for long-term success. And sometimes I think people want to jump right to the end, not realizing that it's okay to make a few stops along the way before you get there. And I think of the very first house I bought was $53,200. Sold it for like $74,000, and then bought like the next house for $150 or something like that.
Right.
And it never would have got to the point where I'm at now had I not made some of those steps along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not any different than us sitting here recording this, right? So I look at it as you either are someone that's willing to be a doer and you just move forward each time by learning and doing a little bit more, or you just sit and wait for the right thing to happen. Well, usually that thing doesn't happen unless you start doing something, right? Yep. And so I think it's the exact same principles. It's like, okay, we got to get off the fence, right? So you're welcome to rent another year, but you just lost 8% appreciation by waiting another year for the right thing to come along.
Absolutely.
So it's your choice if you want to keep waiting for the right thing, or let's get into the marketplace. Let's buy something that will fit your needs.
Yep.
And I think that's part of our counsel is like, fitting the needs and then the wants, right? And wants and needs aren't always the exact same thing, right? Yep. And so helping rebalance that equation, some of that is just you got to get people out into stuff, right? Yeah. So it's for us, it's how quickly can we get a buyer out into some properties to get an understanding. Yep. And there's really no way. We all love the apps. We all love the Zillow and Trulia and the Realtor.com and the GRAR. And, you can do as many researches, but defining what your wants and needs are until you sort of touch, feel, walk through a house, it's very hard for anyone to really get an opinion of what their wants and needs are.
I think there's great wisdom in that. It's being able to go out, see it, and touch it and really put your arms around it because then you get a like you said, looking
pending now, and they looked at a group of houses and they said that they didn't want to see one, right? And then as a team of agents, one of our team members said to the other, "Hey, have you guys looked at 123 Elm Street?" And he's like, "No, my client didn't want to see it." And he's like, Mariah just said, "Hey, it's a really good house. You might want to go take a look at it." And so Paul just added it to his search that day, right? And just said, well, we're going out on Saturday. I added a house, right?
As well, right?
And you said you didn't want to see it, but I added it, right? Yeah. And that's the one that they bought. Okay, so it's this idea of saying like we get that like the images don't look as good on like this person didn't take really good photos, or that carpet doesn't look good, but was the floor plan right? Was the kitchen like? Yeah. So there's the cosmetic things that you're going to see in those images. If the house is marketed right by an agent, it never looks truly like it does because it actually looks better.
Yeah.
So there's really great photographers out there, and so the rooms look bigger with the wide angles now, and they're always brighter than what they really are. You're like you walk into a living room and you're like, where did the lights go, right? And it's like, oh, how did that become light? There is no lights in this living room other than that little lamp in the corner. So it is this balance between, for us as agents, what the buyer is requesting and wanting, and us knowing the market enough to help them understand there's something out there that maybe they again said they checked the box no because it only had a half bath instead of a full bath as a second, or they didn't even know about the neighborhood, or they were concerned because they don't have a lot of cash and the carpet needs to be replaced. Well, all those things can be worked through. Let's figure that out, right? Let's work on.
But those are the things where a good, experienced agent, can walk you through that process, right? Like, that wise counsel of, here's maybe things that you may not have considered. So an agent that is experienced, that knows what they're doing, is going to take the time to really understand what you're looking for, but, maybe lead you down the path that you need to go, that maybe you didn't know you needed to go, right? Like.
Yeah, I think the original value of an agent was like the hunt for the house, because the buyers didn't know where they all were. Now that's not my value anymore, right? Like they can see every house. My value is the understanding of what their real wants and needs are, and helping them counsel through that process, right? So this situation that we just talked about with finding a house that they said no to, it was listening, understanding, showing them enough homes that we knew what they wanted, and then it was just like, wait a minute, you forgot this house, right? And so it's not always the finding of the house, it's the understanding of their needs, and then making sure that we help them think through those situations of, wait a minute, you told me these three things. This house fits those three things. I'm blanking then on why this isn't the house.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of a thing. So,
well, I think that goes, because one of the things I wanted to talk about was just the importance of having a good experienced agent, right?
Yeah.
And a good experienced agent is going to know to walk you through this
Absolutely.
process. They're going to know the questions they should ask you. They're going to listen to it, and then they're going to come up with a game plan that ideally is going to help you accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I mean the for sale by owner or for sale by buyer, right? Idea like I want to do this on my own world instead of seeking counsel. Some of the struggle is that unfortunately our reputations are either good or bad based on who they got, right? And did they get good counsel or not? And we're judged on the other 3,000 members, right? And so I think one thing to do is just always to interview, and I think that's done less than it should be.
Absolutely.
We don't shy away from it at all. As our team, I think that buyers should interview just like a listing should, right? Yep. And I kind of love that process because then I have to work harder and I have to prove my value, right? So go to open houses, shop those folks, and then have coffee with them, and we've seen that happen more and more over the last year or two of our agents and myself, where it's someone that's saying, "Hey, I'm interviewing for a buyer agent," and I love that. It means that person, that client is looking to fully be educated, and they want to find the right fit. And then for us, we can say, are we a fit or not too, right? Because we want to work with people that want to participate and use our knowledge, not abuse it, right? And so I think in that, in counsel to any of your listeners, if they are thinking of purchasing, it's get a first opinion of them at an open house and get a referral, and and then go find yourself somebody on open house, and then go to Zillow and look at reviews or whatever, and then really just determine what are my needs, and is this person, do I meld well with them, and do they have enough units? Have they done enough deals to understand the market situation?
Do they have enough experience to be able to kind of successfully navigate you not only through the process of finding a house, but then you have that whole next stage is once you find a house, then there's the negotiating the contract, right?
Yeah. Well, and I would also say in that interview process, I think it's important to know, how does your agent work with other agents?
Because
if
important.
we're thinking of what will trip you up, or what will what is one advantage over another in the last couple of years, it's working with an agent that has some years of experience, or at least someone that on their team, if they're working with a team member. Two of my agents don't have as much experience, but as I do. But when we're together as a team, they can use my name, right? And reputation in that. There is an advantage for someone that is buying, that is using someone that everybody generally respects.
Yes.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that you get the house for less or whatever, but it might be a difference of getting the house or not, right?
Absolutely.
When I'm looking at contracts, and seller says, well, do you know this person, and what do you think of them, or what is their reputation? That's important to know. Like, I'm on the GRAR board, and this person's on this committee with me, right? You and I have been on committees together. There's a different understanding on if it goes sideways, Dan and I are going to see each other again in a month from now. So there's a little different level of accountability.
Yeah, there's a level of accountability, and I think that I know I've seen it where some agents are easier to work with, and so they're more inclined to be like, hey, we'll take this offer from Steve's team because we know Steve's team has properly vetted the buyer. They've
know
done
how to get
all
the deal done,
the right things,
right?
And it's going to close.
And there is not a house that doesn't have some situation that has to be figured out, right?
True.
You're always going to, some files are going to fly by, and you're like, oh my goodness, what how did that just there was nothing there. But there's always some conversation that needs to be dealt with. And you just want to make sure that person knows how to handle that, right? The buyer that is listening today, the idea is that you are hiring someone to take some of that stress load off. This is going to be one of the most stressful processes that you go through, is buying and selling real property, real estate. And so when you're paying us the amount that they pay us, the goal is that we are relieving you from some of that stress. So if you get the sense when you're interviewing them, well, this person feels like they're pushing stress onto me, not taking it off of me. Well, there's an issue there right away, right? Because it's when whatever hits the fan, right? We want to make sure that that person is calm and collected and doesn't add drama, right? Like it's. We want to try to remove the drama as much as possible.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I'm thinking of a transaction I have going right now where, you know, the agent has managed to really complicate things more than it needed to be. Yeah. And it's like you know, and you know, it can be difficult on my end sometimes, because you're like biting your tongue and like, you know, you're making this far worse for everybody. You know, there's an easier way to get there, you know, and you're certainly not helping any of us to get there. So I think it's, you know, it's a lot of it is like you said, you know, it's you know, you guys provide a counsel, right? Yep. You know, and one of the things you talked about is, you know, for sale by buyer, right? These buyers that think, well, I'm just going to keep looking for properties on my own and I don't need the assistance of a realtor. You really do need the assistance of a good qualified agent, because, you know, I think, you know, there's this kind of misconception that somehow I'll just negotiate this deal on my own. I'm going to negotiate with, you know, the seller's agent on my own. Right. And, I you know, can speak to like maybe the importance of a buyer's agent, you know, working for them.
I think also one thing that people think of right now, when you've got 3,000 members in our association and a significant amount of them, it's the person, that person said they are. So if you want to go out on Saturday, who am I going to work with? Am I going to work with the person on Saturday, hiring the right buyer agent and making sure that value is there? I think it's also in the lender. And you know, it's you know, there's a completely difference when I'm sitting in front of a client that I have the listing for and have eight offers on it, and I have lender letters from 7 different lenders. It's the lender that calls me to say these people are good, and it's somebody that I know that's been in the business for a little while. Not any different than hiring a buyer agent or hiring a listing agent. It's, can Dan do the job, right? So when I got a downtown condo or whatever, and I see Dan's name on it, I'm like, yeah, Dan can do this deal. But if I get somebody from a different institution that I have never heard of, and I'm like, yeah, that I've not had a deal successful for a while from that institution, or I don't have a bond with that person. So
it's reputation and you know, the ability to pull through when it's all said and done. You know, I love the fact that, you know, you guys take, you know, a consultative approach, and one of the things that you were talking about just a second ago is, you know, somebody who's not willing to maybe commit to a buyer's agency, that, you know, hey, maybe we're just not going to be the right fit for you. You know, that to me would be like a huge red flag for somebody who's interviewing agents. If you have an agent that's willing to cart you around and it hasn't really, you know, kind of explained to you buyer's agency, the importance of that, and they're not really, you know, trying to, you know, really represent you to the fullest. To me, as you know, I'm looking at that's a red flag that this agent maybe isn't going to be, you know, as skilled or as strong as I need them to be in this process. You know, that's something I should be concerned about. And I think the other thing too is if you have an agent that's carting you around looking at properties and you haven't been pre-approved, that should be a red flag too. You know, because
it's
a
like
good
minimum
agent's going to vet you.
standards, right? We need to have minimum standards, right? So it's like, I'm sorry, like just because you frog a mirror does not mean that you meet minimum standards, right? And you know, some of that is just, you know, the hunger of a new agent, which I totally respect. I was that too. We all were. Right. And so you do some things that don't really make sense because you're hungry to earn the business or try to get the business. You know, I'm not saying that we won't take someone out. For us, we prefer to have at least a 15-minute to a half an hour conversation at Big B before we go show you that first house. Like let's at least get through the general principles of how this thing works. Right. So that, you know, I don't want to circle back, you know, 10 houses later to explain something that I should have taken 30 minutes to explain properly with you. You know, and so, you know, before we go out and see houses, that minimum standard should be there. It's, you know, a mortgage pre-approval and at least a 15-minute, 30-minute thing. You know, some agents go to where you've got to meet me in my office and I'm not going to show you a house until you sign this agency, and they use it, you know. I'm fine with being interviewed by walking through a house or two. but you better be able to show me that you can get a mortgage,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to bring it through a house, which is someone's. I mean, you have to remember too. It's someone's home.
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
owns that home.
That's true.
So as being a professional, I have to respect that homeowner enough to say, wait a minute, you own this piece of property and all your belongings are inside of it in general.
Yep.
So if that's the case, out of respect for that listing and that listing agent and that owner, you have to be able to afford the home before we go into it. And so to say, well, I did this little thing online and I have a letter saying that I should be able to buy something, or I did a mortgage calculator on Zillow and it says I can afford this. We all know that's not it's just not enough. And so again, it goes back to minimum standards. Some people are maybe more than willing to do that with you, but I just think it's the reputation of each individual agent to hopefully say no to that, and it's the kind of business you want to be, right? And I, being on the GRAR board of directors, when we're sitting around the table trying to think about how do we increase our ability as agents to show value. It's our code of ethics. It's who we are, right? And so we all should abide by that ability of saying, wait, like there's minimum standards.
Well, it's doing the stuff that you and your team do. It's that process that you guys go through that, it vets the buyer, but it also sets the buyer up for a proper experience, so that they can go into this and really be well taken care of. And really have a successful experience, which really kind of comes back to the value of an agent overall, right? Like you're there to help navigate them through this process to make this experience successful, and one that is a good process that at the end of the day they feel good about it, as opposed to, oh my gosh, this a horrible experience and so on.
Yeah, I think even also in the selling side, right? We've talked a lot about first-time home buyers, but in the listing side, that it's sticker shock. I'm not going to doubt. We charge a lot of money, right? It's sticker shock when they see the amount that they're going to receive, and then the amount that I get, and the amount that another agent would get if they bring a buyer. It's a lot of money, right? But selling it by owner, again, on the listing side, you're playing with something that could cost you a lot more, right?
Risk,
so you've got some big risk. But I think in that risk of saying, wait a minute, I could have 2 for sale by owner offers in front of me, or I could have a dozen agent offers, right? Yeah. And so do you want to look at a dozen, or do you want to look at 1 or 2 that you might have gotten, right?
Yeah.
By just putting the sign in the front door and putting a little ad online. So I think their value is there on both sides of the equation. But helping someone through, like, for me, at times when I'm getting 12 offers on a house, it can be overwhelming. I'm like, that's just a little ridiculous right now, right? Like, how do we have 12 offers? Like, we did our job, but that's a lot, right? To swim through. There's a lot of details in all those offers. Not to mention who the lender is, what their timelines are, how much they have down.
Yeah.
There's so much complication that comes into that. And just getting it pending is only 10 or 20% of the work. The majority, as is our constant conversation of getting it to close, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And keeping the drama at bay. I think, and that's also in the hiring of an experienced agent, either on the listing side or buyer side, is removing that drama. It's interesting when you start working with someone that has not done as many deals in this industry. They try to intimidate by being loud or making stuff up, right? To add value, because they don't know how to add it yet. And I get it. Yeah. I get it. That, I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning either, right? Yeah. But I learned, and I went to GRI class right away within the first year, and took took 90 hours of training and went in front of So, but it's amazing to me how many people sort of just fly off the cuff agents do at stuff that's so simple that we've done 100 times over, but it's in that thing that they think that they're adding value, but they're actually adding drama that's taking value away from our brand as being Realtors and as their brand, whoever they represent for their brokerage. but in general, just as us as agents. So you can see why people say, well, that was kind of crazy. Maybe I'll just do it myself. Like that was more, so it's in that space.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming out. It's been good, and I'm grateful for you to share your wisdom and just, I think it's important for those of you in the audience to be able to kind of understand really what goes on behind the scenes and help to understand where areas where you can get pinched as part of this process. And it's important not only to have a good experienced realtor to work with, it's important to have a good experienced lender to work with, because they form a team, and
Absolutely.
that team is what can make this process a really good experience for you, or it can make it a really bad experience for you, right? If you get the wrong players in the team, you usually lose. If you get the right players in the team, then you generally end up winning. So how do people who are listening that could benefit from your services here in Greater West Michigan, how do they contact you?
Yeah, so I'm Steve Volkers. Just Google, right? So if you just Google my name, you'll see stevevolkersgroup.com is our website. You can hit us up there. On all the socials, right? So Facebook, Instagram, you're welcome to hit me up there. I probably get a Facebook message once a week of someone saying, hey, we're thinking of doing something. So Facebook Messenger, text, email, all of them work. They'll all funnel in the right way. So just Google my name, or you're welcome to go to our website, steve@stevevolkersgroup.com, and you'll hunt us down there too.
Awesome. And I am Dan Moralez with Northpointe Bank, NMLS number 709729. You can reach me at 616-931-4629, or you can find me online at danmoralez.com. That's DANMORALEZ.com. Hey, thanks for listening. Make sure you share the podcast. Leave us a review. We appreciate good reviews, like 5-star reviews, right?
Absolutely.
Subtle, encouragement there, right? But we appreciate it. Please share it. Share the podcast with those who could benefit from listening to it. Thanks for listening. And of course, Northpointe Bank is an equal housing lender.